Alyssa, nice to meet you. Alyssa, nice to meet you. Alyssa, nice to meet you. Hi, I'm Alyssa. Hi, Alyssa. Hi, Alyssa. Oh, hello again.
So,
No, actually, she was Yeah. Good afternoon, competitors, coaches, judges, and honored guests. Welcome to CaseIT 2023 Wildcard presentations for Division 2 Time Slot A. My name is Christy and I will be your timer today. As a reminder, the CaseIT Organizing Committee is filming the presentations. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our judging panel. Steve Penton, Director Data and Analytics Practice at Slalom, Stephanie Van Eek, General Manager at Slalom, Dilraj Nijar, Business Analyst at OneQBit, Alex Fuller, Chief Technology Officer at Ciovan, and Naeem Sawar, Consulting Manager at BDO Canada. It is also my pleasure to introduce you to our judging facilitator, Peter Tingling, Associate Dean at the BD School of Business. We are excited for your presentation, but before we begin, we would like to remind competitors about the presentation guidelines. You will have 5 minutes of projected time to present your solution. There will be no Q&A for this presentation round. At the end of these periods, competitors and judges are not permitted to continue speaking, even if the time ends while they are mid-sentence. I will be using my own device to time the presentations and Q&A period. I will also provide warnings at the 3, 1 minute, and 30-second marks. Regardless, you're still responsible for keeping track of your time. Please note that competitors are not permitted to reveal their university, country, or city of origin during or after the presentation. Thank you and all the best. Competitors, you may now begin your presentation whenever you are ready.
Great, thank you. So, good afternoon, One Qubit team. We understand the importance of One Qubit taking on the new opportunities in machine learning, specifically with diffusion models. So, we are your curated team, Waterfall Solutions. My name is Alyssa. This is Chloe, Sam, and Taylor. Here we are. And so the issue we've identified is keeping up, the company being able to keep up with the growth of ML and the change it's making in all industries. The objective here is to provide Cubic with the most, one qubit, sorry, with the most optimal use case of diffusion model ML to expand its existing ML capabilities with a new business opportunity. So we've identified alternatives, but Sam now will be going on to our chosen alternative.
Thanks, Alyssa. So the alternative that we've chosen to focus on is uh, using ML to predict the economic impact of natural disasters. And how this would work, as demonstrated by this graphic that we took from a study done in Hawaii, is that a noise image is sampled from a multivariate Gaussian, and then is sort of lined over a neural network to obtain a sample of a realistic looking satellite weather image. So as we can see in iteration 0, we have a high amount of noise, and let's rewind to reach the final iteration 800 uh, to demonstrate the impact. The need from this stems from the fact that floods are the most frequent natural disaster in the world, and our market would be government agencies and insurance companies. This was determined based off our decision criteria, including market attractiveness, accessibility to quality data, the cost of model creation, ethics, and long-term potential. And now I'll pass it off to Taylor to discuss our recommendation.
Thank you, Sam. So we're going to go through a couple images. This is the flood in Pakistan. This is the drought in East Africa. We have the hurricane that hit the east coast of Canada last year. And this is the earthquake in Turkey that just happened 2 weeks ago. Only 5 days ago, Brazil was hit with a flood and landslide.
These are all economic disasters and natural disasters that I'm sure you've heard of in the past couple years. In BC, just 2 years ago, there was a flood and landslide that cost the economy $675 million to recover from. This is why the need for a technology that can predict and assist in the preparation for these types of disasters is more important than ever. Hence why we went with alternative three. So the way this will work is our technology will use diffusion models in order to create forecast graphs and images through the use of atmospheric variables in order to then predict and alter the variables to account for climate change. The difference with what they're doing today is that they can't account for the climate changing, and that's what this model will do. Going into our plan, so we've already introduced and began the discovery and feasibility stage for you. By April of 2023, we plan on introducing requirements and parameters in order to start building. And then we plan to do a test platform in July, and a month later, do focus groups and get feedback to make adjustments before we launch in December. Hopefully, with the launch in December of the test platform, by January, we can attend road shows in order to promote and gather more funding, and ideally launch in March of 2024. Once we launch, we will continuously be improving and maintaining the system through focus groups with our customers and with our IT team and development team to make sure that it's constantly getting better in order to then launch globally in 2024. Now on to Chloe.
Great. Thanks, Taylor. So moving on to our risks and mitigations, we've identified four right here. The first one is inaccuracy. So with any machine learning software, there's always the possibility of creating inaccurate results and not figuring out the problem or the issue that we want to solve. This will be mitigated through continuous improvement. Just speeding through these other risks and mitigations here, we also have potential bias, lack of transparency, and technical debt. Moving on to our measures of success now, we've identified three right here. Our first one is a cost savings analysis, and this will be measured from the economic impact of our software. Our next measure of success is an increased customer adoption rate, and our last measure of
Thank you for your
success is prediction accuracy.
presentation. The presentation time is now complete.
To me. Hi, hi, it's a pleasure. Hi, look to me. Hi, look to me.
Good afternoon, competitors, coaches, judges, and honored guests. Welcome to CaseIT 2023 Wildcard presentations for Division 3 Time Slot B. My name is Christy, and I will be your timer today. As a reminder, the CaseIT Organizing Committee is filming presentations. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our judging panel. Steve Penton, Director Data and Analytics Practice at Slalom. Stephanie Van Eek, General Manager at Slalom. Dilraj Najjar, Business Analyst at OneQubit. Alex Buhler, Chief Technology Officer at Ciovan, and Naeem Sawar, Consulting Manager at BDO Canada. It is also my pleasure to introduce you to the judging facilitator, Peter Tingling, Associate Dean at the BD School of Business. We are excited for your presentation, but before we begin, we would like to remind competitors about the presentation guidelines. You will have 5 minutes of projected time to present your solution. There will be no Q&A for this presentation round. At the end of these periods, competitors and judges are not permitted to continue speaking even if the time ends while they are mid-sentence. I will be using my own device to time the presentations and Q&A period. I will also provide warnings at the 3, 1 minute, and 30-second marks. Regardless, you are still responsible for keeping track of your time. Please note that competitors are not permitted to reveal their university, country, or city of origin during or after the presentation. Thank you and all the best. Competitors, you may now begin your presentation whenever you are ready.
Good afternoon. It is an absolute pleasure to be here today to talk to you about one qubit and diffusion models. We are GMRZ Consulting. Power. Machine learning gives people power, it gives power to processes, and it gives power to the planet. It is an incredible piece of technology that is revolutionizing the way that we work. And we are able, if we can take advantage of it, we are able to solve a number of problems and meet modern demand. That is what we are here today to present to you about how one qubit can take advantage of new machine learning models, specifically diffusion models. And we will present to you a number of use cases and different applications for it, and business case over the next 3 years of how one of these can be applied and one qubit can invest in it. I will now hand you over to Rio to go through the use cases.
Thank you, Georgie. So last time we spoke, you asked us to analyze a range of use cases, some examples that were given to us by you, but we also developed some new ideas. The four of us came up with a whopping 14 different ideas, which is quite a lot, but we only had to choose one to implement it. On the slide, you can see our decision matrix we used. On that side over there, you can see the selection criteria we drew out. Now, we wanted to choose a solution that would really drive innovation and that would rock the boat of the industry. So we chose to go with preventing cyber intrusion and threats in networks, which you can see in the first column over there. I will now hand you over to Jabert, who will walk you through the business use case.
Thanks, Rio. 80% of the companies globally have experienced at least one successful cyber attack over the last year. The problems behind it: lack of proactive cyber defense, failure to detect hostile malware, and also effectiveness against variation of attacks. That is where diffusion modeling comes in. It can predict cyber attacks, it can provide higher accuracy, and also widens the anomalies of data variation. For customer, we identified top 3 industries that invest the most in cybersecurity over the last year. Also, as indicators, we focused on global valuation of the industry and also the average cost per one successful cyber attack. Now I'm going to hand you back to Rio, who's going to walk us through the solution.
Thank you. So now that you know what our solution is, what problems it solves, we've even told you who your customer base is. Let's take a look at how exactly this is going to work. Now, during our business analysis, we identified that partnerships built the foundation of your company. 2 of these partners are Amazon Web Services and RBS. Now, these partners are both perfect for this project because of the wealth of users they have on their networks. These users generate a massive amount of data, which we can then use to train our model. But now to the brains behind our technology, Melanie, who will walk you through the technicalities of our solution.
Thank you. As you can see, there are 4 training data sets. First being network traffic data. And that is being obtained from looking at the network sniffer, which is going to be placed between the client and the server. Also, there's going to be consumer behavior data, threat intelligence data, and user log. This is going to be provided by our partners, being RBS as well as AWS. Now you see this training input going to a diffusion model. How does this actually prevent cybercrime? As you can see, this complex model from left to right is the denoising and noising process. During this collection, we identify outliers, honest users, as well, in turn, cyber threats. From gathering this data, you can identify future prompts from asking in the system, for instance, how does this cyber threat impact businesses? Now onto the implementation.
Thank you, Melanie. So the implementation of this model will take place over the next 3 years using ML Ops. We will dedicate a large amount of time to defining the problem and really figuring out how we are going to achieve this to overcome some of the issues with machine learning development. We will then develop the model and then implement it with a proof of concept with our partners, learning from their experience. This will cost us about 14.5 million, but we are seeing a positive return on investment year on year with our cost plus pricing strategy. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. The presentation time is now complete. Competitors, you may now exit the room. Good afternoon, competitors, coaches, judges, and honored guests. Welcome to CaseIT 2023 Wildcard presentations for Division 4 Time Slot C. My name is Christy, and I will be your timer today. As a reminder, the CaseIT Organizing Committee is filming the presentations. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our judging panel, Steve Penton, Director, Data and Analytics Practice at Slalom, Stephanie Van Eek, General Manager at Slalom, Dilraj Nijar, Business Analyst at OneQubit, Alex Boer, Chief Technology Officer at Ciovan, and Naeem Sarar, Consulting Manager at BDO Canada. It is also my pleasure to introduce you to the judging facilitator, Peter Tingling, Associate Dean at the BD School of Business. We are excited for your presentation, but before we begin, we would like to remind competitors about the presentation guidelines. You will have 5 minutes of projected time to present your solution. There will be no Q&A for this presentation round. At the end of these periods, competitors and judges are not permitted to continue speaking even if the time ends while they are mid-sentence. I will be using my own device to time the presentations and Q&A period. I will also provide warnings at the 3, 1 minute, and 30-second marks. Regardless, you are still responsible for keeping track of your time. Please note that competitors are not permitted to reveal their university, country, or city of origin during or after the presentations. Thank you and all the best. Competitors, you may now begin your presentation whenever you are ready.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jane, the first speaker of our team, and I'm with my colleagues Hyoju, Jiu, and Chaeron. And today, I would like to talk about our strategy of first step towards game industry. So starting with the recommendation summary, we would like to suggest you to go into the game industry to provide text to 3D diffusion models by having partnership with metaverse game platforms. So starting with our situation analysis. Diffusion model is a state-of-art technology, and you can leverage on your already existing technology to be a fast mover in this industry. And focusing on our short-term goal to tapping into the most suitable market in 3 years, we would like to first ask the question, what value can 1qubit's diffusion model deliver to their potential users? And our team's answer is the improvement of user engagement. We think 1QB should emphasize user engagement because you can offer a unique experience of creativity by empowering the users to visualize their thoughts. Then, where should you target first? According to our team assessment of several industries, we've concluded that architecture, retail, and game industries are top three options. And among those options, game industry will be the most lucrative market since the users in the industry has the highest needs that 1QB can deliver as their value, which is their improvement of user engagement.
Then, what should you do to tap into the gaming market? We suggest player generated content as the most visible, desirable, and beneficial option. And your customers would be metaverse game platforms because they have the strongest needs for player generated content. And your diffusion model can help metaverse game platforms meet the needs of their players, which are diverse, engaging, and realistic experience in a more efficient and effective way. And also, metaverse game platforms are customers with high profit potential. With these expectations, leading metaverse game platforms such as Roblox and Minecraft has started to adopt generative AI. And your killer app for the customers would be text to 3D diffusion model. Then, how would our strategy come into the real lives of the metaverse game players? I'm a player of the Roblox. I'm on the road now, and I feel like I want a fancy sports car. And what should I do? What I need to do is just to type in, I want a red glossy sports car. And then diffusion model turns text into 3D model, and now I get a fancy new and tailored sports car that I exactly wanted. And this is how your diffusion model gives engaging experience to the metaverse game players.
And to execute our strategy, the most important part is how to collect the data and how to mitigate the ethical issues. The most important part of the training data set process is the collection stage. And how should you get this? We recommend to form partnership with metaverse game platforms to secure the most suitable data set reliably. And after acquiring the data set, some ethical issues can arise. And the most predictable problem is that players can create harmful information. And to address this, we recommend both preventive and responsive way. And to ensure the smooth implementation, we recommend three phases: and development, deployment, and expansion.
Next is validation, and we expect you should invest $0.7 million to develop a new product, and incremental revenue expected in 2025 will be $0.6 million, resulting in $0.16 million. And we expect that the generative AI will be the next game changer, and one qubit should lead this trend. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Competitors, you may now exit the room. Good afternoon, competitors, coaches, judges, and honored guests. Welcome to CaseIT 2023 Wildcard Presentations for Division 1 Time Slot D. My name is Chrissy, and I will be your timer today. As a reminder, the CaseIT Organizing Committee is filming the presentations. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our judging panel. Steve Penton, Director, Data and Analytics Practice at Slalom, Stephanie Van Eek, General Manager at Slalom, Dilraj Nijar, Business Analyst at OneQubit, Alex Buhler, Chief Technology Officer at Ciovan, and Naeem Sarar, Consulting Manager at BDO Canada. It is also my pleasure to introduce you to the judging facilitator, Peter Tingling, Associate Dean at the BD School of Business. We are excited for your presentation, but before we begin, we would like to remind competitors about the presentation guidelines. You will have 5 minutes of projected time to present your solution. There will be no Q&A for this presentation round. At the end of these periods, competitors and judges are not permitted to continue speaking even if the time ends while they are mid-sentence. I will be using my own device to time the presentations and Q&A. I will provide warnings at the 1 minute and 30-second marks. Regardless, you are still responsible for keeping track of your time. Please note that competitors are not permitted to reveal their university, country, or city of origin during or after the presentation. Thank you and all the best competitors. You may now begin your presentation whenever you're ready.
Hi, we're Team EDV Consulting, and we're here to show how one qubit can break the bottleneck of the autonomous vehicle industry through synthetic data.
To go through our analysis, we went through 7 different industries which looked the most promising. Here then we found 20 different use cases for implementing diffusion models. Then we applied 11 different criteria. For example, are they set for the future of implementing quantum computing into this business case? And herein, we identified 5 different use cases and looked through for the feasibility, desirability, and the viability. So for feasibility, are we able to actually implement this? In the desirability, do the customers actually need this? And for the viability, is this product actually worth it? And looking through this 5 different use cases, we identified that the best as most viable option would be to go with synthetic data within the automobile industry.
So, Right now is the perfect time for you to go into the autonomous vehicle industry. First of all, you can leverage your existing partnerships with Amazon and Microsoft. Secondly, this is an industry experiencing significant growth. And lastly, because you're already experts in machine learning, applied machine learning, and also you're experts in computational power. There are no self-driving cars on the streets because there aren't enough data to train them upon. The companies that are making self-driving and autonomous vehicles right now, they are testing their systems on real-world augmented data. That works fine in normal situations, but the problem is the unusual ones. Right now, the only cases they can test are the one that they have experienced. But we want them to be able to test on edge cases. And how do you do that? Edge case data is expensive, it's unsafe, and it's impossible to get because you need to test for every probable situation ever. That's where the fusion models come in and creating synthetic data for using so in the autonomous vehicle industry. Here we can create models that can test these vehicles on systems where you can test on every possible situation, in every possible way. One qubit, you can be able to help these industries and help these businesses get into the autonomous vehicle and get these cars on the streets now.
So in terms of the actual implementation of what we propose here, we of course we of course want you to look first of all inward toward your current partners. So that would be, for example, Microsoft or Amazon, to basically just yeah, take contact to the relevant people there to probe for interest. And if that is not perhaps viable for them, or if they are not able to align with your vision of how this is supposed to look in 3 years time or in 10 years time, then you look outward toward other potential partners, of which there are many. Of course, you know probably about many of the cars driving around in San Francisco, for example. In terms of the implementation from that point onward, we'd like to emphasize that this is, of course, is an iterative process. What we've done here is merely provided you with the preliminary analysis. So the initial, from here on now, of course, we'd have to do far more research into some of the assumptions we had to make, but just proofing basically the assumptions that we made, and perhaps taking a step back up the ladder in terms of the analysis. But this is what we see would be the most feasible solution for now. Throughout the 3-year horizon, of course, we'd need to employ quite a few more people within the division internally, and much emphasis has to be on also the collaboration set up with the partner or partners, should several combine together, of choice.
So, one qubit. Now is the time for you to break the bottleneck of the autonomous vehicle industry to make sure that the streets of Vancouver is not only safe, but even better than they are at this moment. We have discovered that there is a big need for synthetic data within this industry, and by using the fusion models, you will be able to provide the necessary data in an industry that is dying for more data. We've been EDB Consulting, and we have been very happy to present to you guys.
Thank you for your presentation. Competitors, you may now exit the room.
So exciting. There's the steel in it. There's the vehicle perfect.
Good afternoon, competitors, coaches, judges, and honored guests. Welcome to the CaseIT 2023 finals presentations. My name is Megan, and I will be your timer today. As a reminder, the CaseIT is organizing committee is filming these presentations. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our judging panel from right to left. Silvio Hinta, the Director of Technology for BranchUp and a Director of CIO Van. Brendan McCabe, Director of Enterprise Commercial Business for Western Canada of Microsoft. Clemens Adolfs, Head of Applied Computing for 1Qubit. Elizabetta Valiente, Optimization Solutions Lead of 1Qubit. And Eric Drexler, Machine Learning Researcher at 1Qubit. It is also my pleasure to introduce to you the judging facilitator, Peter Tingling, the Associate Dean of the SSU BD School of Business. We're so excited for your presentation, but before we begin, we would like to remind the competitors of the presentation guidelines. You will have 20 minutes of unprotected time to present your solution, meaning that the judges are permitted to ask questions at any time during the presentation. At the conclusion of your presentation, judges will have 5 minutes to ask questions. At the end of these periods, competitors and judges are not permitted to continue speaking, even if the time ends while they're mid-sentence. I will be using my own device to time the presentations and Q&A period. I will also provide warnings at the 5, 3, 1 minute, and 30 seconds marks. Regardless, you are still responsible for keeping track of your own time. Please note that competitors are not permitted to reveal their university, country, or city of origin during or after the presentation. And for those in the audience, please remember to turn off your phones and put them on silent. Thank you and all the best. Competitors, you may begin your presentation whenever you are ready.
Fusion models are a type of machine learning that are great for clearing pictures. But currently, the company's picture of the future is quite unclear. And our job here today is to make this picture clearer for you. And now we are going to show you how this picture of the future becomes clear. Dear jury, I would like to welcome you to the presentation of Lumina Consulting. The team members are Rika, Voik, Martin, and me, Barney. And now we're going to show you how to clear this picture in the future into which diffusion models actually fit in. In our analysis, we have identified as the most important challenge that the company faces at the current moment that they want to include a diffusion models based solution into their portfolio that also enables them in reaching their long-term goals. For this, we propose that the company employ a strategy that includes entering the automotive market with their existing solutions such as Focus and Hope, and then building upon them with a diffusion model based solution called Quick 3D, which is going to enable the company to cover the whole process of parts optimization. And this is going to result in a 1.3 million Canadian dollars net present value over the course of 3 years. But what do we base this strategy on? I would like Reika to continue with our analysis.
Thank you. During our analysis, we first looked at the company. Currently, OneQubit's future is clear. They want to be the company that make unsolvable problems solvable. For this, the long-term goal is become a market leader in the process optimization through quantum computing. For this, the first thing is to position the company as a strong player in the process optimization. Therefore, to achieve the long-term goal, first, the company has to concentrate on the short-term goal. For this, additional diffusion models have to be implemented into the company's portfolio because this is the next logical step in order to become the optimization services that they want to provide through machine learning-based solutions. What is diffusion models? These are a technology that is generating images. It can also capable of denoising it and inpainting it. Basically, they can create an image out of text or even from another image or even a 3D model from a text. This is highly scalable and does not require any adversary training, which means it is a good investment. But is it a good fit? For Qubit, they have machine learning expertise and multiple partnerships throughout industries. This means that they have the know-how to create the technology. But what about the resources? Currently, there's 100 employees working for the company in 2 divisions, but only one division is working on this technology. Therefore, the resources are limited. Where can they use this technology? First of all, there's a lot of use cases from a lot of different industries. This is quite overwhelming, right? Especially that there's only one that we can choose due to the limited resources. But which one? Based on McKinsey's report, the most important factor is whether the industries are prepared enough for the machine learning technology. And the 5 industries this is the most prepared for the technology are healthcare, automotive, IT, e-commerce, and pharma. This we will take a look a closer look at these industries based on the criteria that you can see here. The first is most important factor is whether the company is fit for the industry. This means that if they have the capability and the expertise to solve the industry's problems. And the other important that I like to highlight is vision fit, whether the industry itself is a potential future for quantum computing. Based off of these criteria, we have generated the ranking that you can see in the slide, where automotive industry is leading the way ahead of healthcare and pharmaceuticals, followed by IT and e-commerce. Our advice to one qubit is enter the automotive industry with diffusion models, and the only question remaining, how? Yeah.
I just need to be closer. Sorry. Okay. Just love this discussion of which of those are the best fit. Can you go a bit deeper into the way you did the ranking? Were they equally weighted? Was there a score internally behind the pictures? How did you come up with that?
Yes, of course, just a minute. As you can see here, we have generated the numbers. Every number means 1 to 4 in the scale. 1 is the worst, 4 is the most optional scenario. And as you can see right in the end, there got scores. So every line is added up at the end. And based on the scores, automotive is the perfect industry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our strategy consists 2 main pillars. First, Drive Way, where we are entering automotive industry with the N66 solutions to optimizing the manufacturing processes. And second, Quick 3D, when we are expanding even further the features inside the optimization processes with text to 3D and 3D to 3D diffusions. With that, one qubit can cover all of the part optimization processes with a simple, quick, and fast solution. And now Barney will talk about our first pillar.
Thank you. So Now that the picture has become a little bit clearer, we can start to talk about how the company should enter the automotive market. When we look at the automotive market, we have to ask ourselves the question, what is the need that we can answer on this market, that Qubit can answer on the market? And we can see that there is a need for optimization in the manufacturing process, in the parts manufacturing process. And this is especially important for original equipment manufacturers such as Ford or BMW, because in one car, just in one car, there are 30,000 separate parts that need to be optimized for manufacturing. And currently, one qubit has the capability to actually tackle this need. But how? Well, we looked at the company and seen that they have optimization services which can actually serve this need on this market. These services are, of course, Hope and Focus. Hope is a very problem-specific optimization software package, whereas Focus is more of a problem agnostic package. Basically, both are optimization tools that the company can use to actually tackle the need in the market. So by doing this, the company is going to be able to provide OEMs with a very unique value proposition. And now I would like to take a look at the customer's journey. So first of all, they are going to have a contract with one qubit about the optimization of parts. After which, they are going to provide the data necessary for the optimization, basically data that is generated by IoT devices mostly. And after which, they are going to define the criteria for optimization, such as they can optimize for energy usage, price, speed, or whatever the company wants to optimize for. After which, they are to which the hope or focus is going to provide the optimized parameters, which is going to be the output of this process. But now we have to ask ourselves one question. Is this enough to answer all the needs that OEMs might have? And about that, Martin is going to expand on this question. So Martin, please tell us about that.
Sure. Well, actually, as the picture is getting more clear and clear, it starts to see the future of one qubit. Well, actually, but during when in the previous pillar, we recommended your company to enter the car manufacturing industry. However, entering the industry with your and providing the optimization services might not be enough for your company, as there are other companies providing the same services. Therefore, we asked ourselves, how could your company differentiate itself in this competitive market? Well, we found a solution. During our strategy creation, we find a way your company could, during our strategy creation, we identified a key customer pain point. So whenever a company is optimizing for these car manufacturers, the service ends there when they have the final product optimized. This is a problem for the car manufacturers, as they have to look for another company to visualize it. This causes them the process. This will cause the process. This will make the process more slower, more expensive for them, and very often very inconvenient. Therefore, there is a need for there is a hole in their customer satisfaction that your company can actually fill up by using diffusion technology, diffusion model technologies. But how? Dear members of the jury, let me introduce you the quick 3D, your future text 3D diffusion model technology. Yes.
Can you clarify for me which are the customers in this case?
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat that question?
Can you clarify which are the customers?
Your customer, by customers, you mean who's gonna the car manufacturers?
The customers who are going to use this product here.
Well, the car manufacturers could use the product as their optimization and optimize their parts, and they can also, there is a need for them to visualize these kind of parts just for to run further tests. In order to run further tests with these parts, in order to make them as fit as they wanted to, and therefore they are going to be the for future customers of yours. Yeah. Right. So let me tell you how the Quick 3D works. Well, the beauty of it is that the input of this diffusion model technology is actually the output of your optimization process. By that, I mean the description of the parameters of the different the parameters of the already optimized parts. With that, the quick 3D can use this to create a 3D model with the help of that. Creating it, like making it allow the car manufacturers to run further tests with this product. It's going to be very useful for them as a car manufacturer has 9,000 different parts, which needs to be not only optimized but visualized as well in the same time. So they will run these tests again and again until up to 9,000 times even. Well, after that, here comes the real value in the picture. After all the 9,000 parts has been visualized, your company could keep, we are recommending your company to use 3D to 3D diffusion model technology in order to assemble and put all the parts, 9,000 parts, into one picture and create the final product. This is going to be incredibly useful for the final customers as they can and they can see how the final product will change whether when they are changing certain parts of the final product and how the final product will react to that. Well, but how will we have the data for it? Well, Barney, could you enlighten us?
Well, of course I can. Well, talked at length about how the data could be generated, and we basically came up with this answer. We propose that your company start a partnership with an OEM who are going to provide you with a clean, structured database that they use in the car manufacturing process. And we also propose that your company give them a 50% price deduction during the first year of working together. This database, of course, includes data from IoT, from blueprints, from testing that the model can learn on. And this is exactly perfect for the company because we propose to use a supervised ML learning method um, in which the labeling process would be lengthiest, but because the database is already cleaned and structured for the internal use of the OEM, and it is going to be provided for the company, you're going to be able to do labeling much faster than first thought. But Martin, how do we know that this is actually going to work? Do we have a proof of concept?
In fact, we have this technology is already being proven to be working, as there are other companies who are using text to 3D modeling. For example, NVIDIA, who is using a text to 3D diffusion technology. And the results are speaking for themselves as they reported 4 times faster solution and more detailed and even more detailed end product with better quality. However, so to wrap up our strategy, with our strategy, your company will be capable of covering the entire process of automatic parts testing and optimizing in the future, offering your customers a faster, simpler, and a more cheaper solution. And this is going to be your future USP for them. And this is why they are going to choose your services.
Now we can see that the picture is quite clear. You can see that the future for the company is the automotive industry. But now we have to ask ourselves the question, is the future only cars? We say no. The future is only airplanes. It's also buses, it's also ships, and it's also smartphones. Why? Because what we propose to you is a generalizable solution across a wide array of industries in which complex manufacturing takes place. You're going to be able to use this solution in all of these industries in the future, if need be, and be able to provide a unique service to any company in these industries. Basically, expansion is not going to be a question of whether we can, but when we want to. And now we would like to wrap up the part about the strategy and talk about the impact this is going to have in the company. Waik, please tell us about that.
Now, I would like to talk about the timeline of your strategy. After acquiring the database, the development can be done within 1 year. But if the database can be acquired faster, the development can be done 3 months shorter. All of the risk can be mitigated by communicating the development team, but if you have more questions, we are more than happy to answer them in a Q&A session. Our strategy will cost 5 million Canadian dollar, and we calculated an additional $2 million for if the data can be acquired. So the database have to be generated. Even with that, our strategy will be positive income within 2 years. So Quick 3D will generate revenue in the third quarter of 2023, and the 50% price deduction will be ended in the middle of the 2025 years. With that, the company will reach the break-even point in the middle of 2025 with 30% profit margin.
So to repeat everything that we has been saying, well, your company will be capable covering the entire process of automating parts, testing, and optimizing. You could do the optimizing for these car manufacturers. In fact, the process doesn't have to stop there. It has to, they can go further and choose you as the visualization company by using Quick 3D. With that, your company can propose faster, cheaper, and a more convenient solution to your customers. And that is why this is something that no other competitor is capable of currently, because your company builds on your already existing in-house capabilities. With that being said, we would like to thank you for your attention, and we are looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, team, for your presentation. Judges, the presentation time was 18 minutes and 14 seconds. Judges, you now have 5 minutes to ask questions. You may now begin.
Here we go. Yeah. Hi, my name is Eric. Fantastic presentation. Thank you. I have a question about that first product you presented, Driveway, specifically about the optimization process and how additional synthetic data, which we generate with the diffusion model, will help us to optimize these processes, these manufacturing processes. So basically, we have data available for purchase, and this is what you presented at the end. But we want to be able to generate this data as well. How is this additional data going to help us optimize even more?
Sorry, excuse me. Are you talking about the data generated by Focus on Hope, or are you talking about the data the data used to make basically the software learn, say the machine learning process?
So I'm talking about us using diffusion models by, I guess, Hope was the product here, to optimize the manufacturing process. This is what I got. The first part of this product is about.
Yes, of course, yes.
Yes. So how is this additional data on top of what is already present going to help us to optimize?
Basically, that part is more about visualization in a way. The first part that we talked about is the text to 3D diffusion part. That's about visualization. The company is not going to have to go to a somewhere a CAD designer or an engineer to create this visual part for them. And the optimization basically comes later by learning on blueprints. Um, is going to be able to put together 3D models into one, basically just one file and just show it as a whole. And that is the USP that we are proposing your companies to have.
I've got a question, if I may. Can you talk a little bit about which OEM partner? Did you put any thought into which one and what the value proposition is? And then I got a second part to that, which is your implementation plan calls out building a strategic partnership, but what is the commercial nature of that relationship? You mentioned 50% off for a year, but I wasn't quite clear on that.
Okay, so basically what we propose is your company to have a partnership with BMW because of the past that your company has with this company. And we think that it is going to be, well, first of all, let's talk about how the OEM is going to benefit. They are going to basically be able to make the parts optimization process of their company a lot faster than before and a lot cheaper. We looked at how much OEMs usually spend on R&D in terms of optimization. And with this, they will actually be able to save some costs too. And
in return, they're going to get 50% off in the first year, 50% off the price of using this software, this solution, and also they are yeah, and also they will provide a database. So this is basically the nature of the partnership. It's going to be a commercial partnership, but there's mutual benefits basically.
Okay. How did you price the commercial model? 50% off of what?
We're going to show you in a bit. But what we basically thought about is that we want to make it impossible for OEMs to just basically buy and dump, to use the solution for 1 month and just stop using it. And there was not a lot of pricing data available online. So what we went with was using a base fee for the usage of the service, and after which charging an extra fee after each optimization, after each visualization, and that is going to add up to basically the revenue we calculated with, which was guesstimation of how many parts they will be using it for in the first couple of months.
Okay. And there's a period of exclusivity for them as well?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
There's a period of exclusivity for BMW in this model as well?
Yes, we actually calculated with only working for the BMW in these first 3 years.
Questions. So how do you know the customer needs this solution? Basically, what they are doing currently and why this solution will improve their productivity or ROI?
Well, during our strategy creation, we asked ourselves that we looked into how car manufacturers are thinking and how they are building up new models, how they're designing new models. And we identified that first they are looking for an optimization company, just as you are, and they are optimizing how the different parts should look like. However, at that point, there is no company currently on the market who does not only the optimization but the visualization as well. So
Thank you
that's going to
so much.
be
That is now the end of our Q&A.
yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, competitors, coaches, judges, and honored guests. Welcome to the CaseIT 2023 final presentations. My name is Megan, and I will be your timer today. As a reminder, the CaseIT Organizing Committee is filming the presentations. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our judging panel from right to left. Silvio Hinta, the Director of Technology for BranchUp and a Director of CIO Van, Brendan McCabe, the Director of Enterprise Commercial Businesses for Western Canada for Microsoft, Clemens Adolphs, the Head of Applied Computing for OneQubit, Elizabeth Valiente, the Optimization Solutions Lead of OneQubit, and Eric Drexler, the Machine Learning Researcher of OneQubit. It is also my pleasure to introduce to you the judging facilitator, Peter Tingling, the Associate Dean of the SWB School of Business. We are so excited for your presentation, but before we begin, we would like to remind competitors of the presentation guidelines. You will have 20 minutes of unprotected time to present your solution, meaning that judges are permitted to ask questions at any time during the presentation. At the conclusion of your presentation, judges will have 5 minutes to ask questions. At the end of these periods, competitors and judges are not permitted to continue speaking, even if the time ends while they're mid-sentence. I will be using my own device to time the presentations and Q&A period. I will also provide warnings at the 5, 3, 1 minute, and 30-second marks. Regardless, you are still responsible for keeping track of your own time. Please note that competitors are not permitted to reveal their university, country, or city of origin during or after the presentation. And a gentle reminder for those in the audience, please remember to silence your phones. Thank you and all the best. Competitors, you may begin your presentation whenever you're ready.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We are Snow Consulting. My name is Charlie, and along with my associates, Patrick, Daniel, and Vedant, we are so excited to be here to talk to you about how OneQubit can leverage their machine learning expertise to capitalize on diffusion modeling technology. So this is a quote by Fei-Fei Li of the Stanford Institute. This is a great example of a very revered opinion that reinforces how generative AI can support and augment human capabilities.
So, OneQubit has had a history of partnering with various companies across different industries to leverage the machine learning experience to generate positive business outcomes. As a result, we believe that OneQubit is perfectly positioned to capitalize on the most popular trend in generative AI today, which is diffusion modeling. We prepared 3 use cases for you, of which we believe medical imaging will yield the greatest financial outcome for you while also tackling a critical social issue in Canadian healthcare.
Thank you, Patrick. So when we talk about the diffusion modeling environment, we have to talk about the competitive advantages that OneQubit has. First of all, the partnerships. OneQubit has many existing partnerships, including Amazon or Biogen. Secondly, OneQubit possesses 10 to 12 years of machine learning experience. And finally, OneQubit has experience in quantum computing as well, especially in the diffusion modeling environment. All these advantages allow OneQubit to expand its capabilities in diffusion model environment through new use cases.
So, to answer this question, we are trying to answer the question, how can OneQubit best leverage its machine learning diffusion models to satisfy customer needs? To answer this question, we developed 3 use cases, which involve CT imaging, aerospace technology, and self-driving cars. My associate Charlie here will tell you more about it.
Thank you, Vedant. So the first use case that we're going to be talking about today is that of the medical industry, specifically CT imaging or CT scanning. So this would be an image-to-image domain that would take the input of a non-contrast CT scan, which are much lower quality, and put them through the diffusion model, and the output would then be a much higher quality CT image. That CT image will then be put through a separate deep learning model to be able to look for any abnormalities or issues or anything like that. And if they spot or if it finds one, it could then flag it to a radiologist who can then make an early diagnosis or prioritize more time-sensitive diseases. This can be often the key to between life and death and can save many, many lives. So the customer.
Just one quick question there. Sorry.
Uh,
Let's see if this is work. When you say enhance the quality, can you go a little bit deeper into what are we looking for?
Certainly. So in CT imaging, there's what's called a contrast, which is used for CT scans of certain areas, such as the abdomen, where it's used to make it so the radiologist is able to more clearly distinguish different types of muscle fibers. So when we say enhance the image, what we mean is currently with contrasts, those are required sometimes for certain types of scans. What our solution would do is we'd use the image-to-image text to kind of generate what the detail would look like without having to apply a contrast.
Thanks.
Thank you for your question. Now, on to the customer segment for this use case. So the customer segment for this use case would be hospitals with CT scanners, and these hospitals often have very heavy backlogs, which is a very big concern for them. And the availability of data is very high, as there are options in both public sectors and private databases as well. Finally, this would also help, but not replace radiologists, and rather it would aid them and free them to help more patients, and this would help them reduce the backlog and be able to save more lives, see more patients. Next use case that we have is in the self-driving car industry. So this one would also be an image-to-image domain, and it would take the input of an image that self-driving car scanned in its environment, and then would also put it through the model and output either an image that is different but similar, but can be used to augment the training data, or it could be also put into a different format that can just make it easier for the self-driving car to process and use its decision making.
Can I clarify here just for a
Absolutely.
second? Are we talking about making the training data better as you work to develop a self-driving car, or are you talking about something that on the fly runs in the car's processor?
This one would be more for the development of the car because self-driving cars are more in a development phase on the whole. They're still looking for ways to get better to be able to really go to market. So we think that this is a great use case for that can be applied to. So customer segment for this use case would be companies, self-driving car companies like Tesla or NVIDIA or Waymo that they can apply to their self-driving car technology. And the availability in this case of data is extremely high, as these car companies have been spending years amassing a high volume of data. And in this case, 1QBit would be providing the model to integrate with the data that they already have and to augment their technology. Finally, this is ethically sound. There's no intellectual property rights being violated because the car companies already own the data. So this would instead just serve to help make people's lives easier and safer as well.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
How do you convince? How do you convince this company to pay 1QB to do this work? They probably have machine learning scientists themselves.
So while they have most likely have machine learning scientists themselves, we believe that 1QBit is strategically placed with their expertise in diffusion modeling as well as quantum computing to be able to provide extra value to these car companies. Okay, and then for the third use case that we identified, this one would be in the aerospace industry. So it would be a text-to-image domain where it would take the input of a text specification and then output either an image of a specific clickable design or also possibly a 3D model that can be put through a real-time situation to see how it would react in real life. The competitor or the customer segment of this use case is companies that use aerospace technology such as Boeing or Lockheed Martin or Bombardier. The availability for data on this use case is semi-high. 1QBit can advantage and use or advantage their partnership with Honeywell to get some data, but more in this case will need to be collected. And this wouldn't replace aerospace engineers' jobs. Rather, it would just serve as a creative aid to help augment their creative process and really free them so that they can hit their and maximize their productivity potential. So when evaluating these use cases, we selected 5 criteria we believe to be important. So these include customer potential, availability of data, ethical implications, alignment with 1QBit's strengths, and technological feasibility. And then we weighted each of these criteria based on how important we see them being for long-term success for the use case for 1QBit. So the most important part of this we want to highlight is that we saw that CT imaging had the highest weighted score with 3.65. I'll now pass it along to Patrick to talk more about this use case.
Hey, Charlie. So currently there exists issue with CT imaging in Canada. So post-pandemic, the average wait time for a CT scan appointment has skyrocketed from the recommended 30 days to 50 to 82 days. This has caused various problems, some of which are listed here. One is the higher percentage of reversible injuries or ailments, which have become irreversible due to late diagnosis. Then there's also the effect on the employees themselves, who are the radiologists, the radiology technicians, who haven't seen any reduction in their backlog, which will lower their morale and efficiency overall. And finally, the lower quality of life and productivity for waiting patients themselves due to heightened anxiety and possible ailments. So this is a brief outline of the existing CT scanning process. So first they test whether or not a contrast needs to be applied to the CT scan. Around 60% of CT scans do use a contrast, and while this will improve the clarity of the image itself, it does have some issues, primarily in the sense that the CT scan becomes more expensive during to have to purchase the contrast, and also the issue of wait time. So when you use a contrast for a CT scan, it significantly increases the time from 15 minutes without to 75 minutes. So after they determine whether or not the contrast is necessary, the patient then undergoes a CT scan. The radiologist interprets the results of the CT scan, and then they share the information with the primary physician or the referring physician, who would then share it with the patient. So we believe that our solution can resolve this issue of contrast through the following means. So first, if there was an image that would traditionally use a contrast, CT scan, we would take it without a contrast, and then we'd run it through our AI. The AI would be trained using the electronic medical data from various different sources to be able to kind of almost enhance the image and add additional detail that you would normally require a contrast for. Afterwards, we would then put through a separate deep learning algorithm, which is trained using separate electronic medical records, which are trained using CT scans with abnormalities. So then this system would automatically detect and flag any time-sensitive CT scans, and then prioritize those for doctors. So those who really do need an early diagnosis can get that promptly. So what would happen to the existing system is the patient, regardless of whether or not it's an area where normally a contrast would enhance the image, they would simply undergo a CT scan. That image will be fed through a machine learning algorithm, and which will enhance the CT scan and also look for any abnormalities and flag them. The radiologist should prioritize those, and then the rest of the process remain the same. While early diagnosis sounds like a minimal problem, it actually has a very, very important application. For example, in Canada, one of the leading causes of one of the leading types of cancer is lung cancer, and makes a large proportion. And it actually causes 25% of death by cancer. So as you can see, the 5-year survival rate for non-small cell lung cancer, which is the most common type of lung cancer, is 64% if diagnosed early. However, if diagnosed late, the 5-year survival rate falls to 8%. That's a very significant amount of lives, and we believe this is a very critical problem. Now I'll pass it on to Daniel.
Thank you, Patrick. So when we talk about deep learning algorithms are constantly evolving as we are feeding them more and more data. So instead of doing a one-time purchase, we are focusing on a licensing model. Hospitals will be able to benefit from this a lot more because they're getting the newest and best quality data throughout their life cycle. So the system will cost about 2,800 Canadian dollars per CT scanner. So when we talk about the financial impact, first we have to talk about the assumptions. We're gonna have both internal and external software developers in the system, and the upfront cost will be about 800,000 Canadian dollars. Then there will be 3 separate stages, starting out first with the development and testing, then going into the pilot, and then finally the full rollout. In many cases, when we talk about emerging technology pilots, they are losing money. And so will be this the case in our situation. You will be losing money, but in the long term, and you flip on the next slide, you will be seeing the significant increase in net profit as we are getting into the full rollout. This will yield you a 21% internal rate of return, 15% return on investment, and 600,000 Canadian dollars by 2024.
Can I stop you for one sec? Can you talk a little bit about the actual buyers? I think you're saying hospitals are the buyers. Did you think at all about insurance providers or digital healthcare services that might be potential buyers instead of hospitals?
Yeah, there's definitely research applications for it. I'm sure a lot of research companies would be interested in this technology as well. We focused more on hospitals because we wanted to address the issue of the backlog. So right now we have radiologists and radiology technicians who are being overworked, and that's affecting Canada as a whole. Not just in the sense that these people are being overworked, but also there might be people with ailments who aren't getting diagnosed promptly, which leads to a lower quality of life for them. So we want to focus primarily on them first because that'll yield the most social impact immediately, we believe. However, there are other companies who would definitely be interested, or maybe even extend it to things beyond CT scanning. We focus on CT scanning specifically just because that's the kind of like the best in terms of like detail of the diagnostic imaging and prevalence of usage. I think 5.4 million CT scans were conducted in 2020. So it's definitely the most popular type of diagnostic imaging.
Thank you.
But yeah, there's definitely other applications, and we have considered them, but we just want to make an impact now.
So, just like with any project, we identified three key performance indicators. The first is a 10% decrease in current CT backlog. This translates towards the more social side of our case, as we want to ensure that the people who need a CT scan are able to get it and not stuck in the backlog. We also want at least a 50% reduction in the time taken during a CT scan, and we believe this is possible by removing the contrast and using our model instead. Lastly, we want a 75% positive usability feedback from radiologists. Our system has to work for the radiologists, and they must be easily able to use our user interface and seamlessly integrate it into their working lifestyle. So, this is our implementation timeline. Some immediate steps that we can take are assembling a development team. We believe that we can do both models in terms of parallel development and start the MLOps process, which involves requirements analysis. If you notice our model, you can see that for the rest of the fiscal year of 2023, we will be parallelly developing the machine learning diffusion model and the deep learning algorithm. Afterwards, at the start of the fiscal year 2024, we will begin our pilot, and in the later half of the year in 2024, we will begin with full development. Just like with any project, we have to realize the stakeholders of our project. Radiologists are one of them. As a result, we need to make sure radiologists are able to use our system. To do that, we recommend OneQubit come up with an online training program that they can publish on our website. Some sample UI is shown on the slide in a very simple way, such that OneQubit can create some modules for radiologists to go through to understand how they can use the software simply and effectively. To further enhance this training model, we can conduct interviews with viewers after some time to modify the model and make it better. To summarize, we understand what OneQubit's competitive advantage is in. It's in their machine learning. And we believe that OneQubit can apply that to its machine learning diffusion models. We identified 3 use cases of which we believe CT scanning is the best due to its enormous financial and social positive implications. If we look long term, we can think that OneQubit can expand this model to outside of British Columbia and target a large number of CT scanners in Canada in general. One province that we suggest that OneQubit target next would be Ontario. Thank you. We will now open up to questions.
Thank you, team, for your presentation. The duration of the presentation was 17 minutes and 46 seconds. Judges, you now have 5 minutes to ask questions. You may now begin.
Thank you, Snow Consulting, for this excellent presentation. It has recently been shown that diffusion models are able to reconstruct their input data. So do you see any problem one qubit might be thinking about in terms of which data sets we use? Of course, diffusion models can reconstruct the input data. Is there any ethical concern we should take into account as a company when we train those diffusion models?
As of now, we feel like the good that we can create from a radiologist model, because we're dealing with cases that end up in life or death, and any way that we can figure out a way to stop someone from dying just through an early diagnosis is one that we feel that anyone who has problems with the ethics would be on board with the fact that our technology can save someone who can die.
I think also you guys have a great use case with X-ray technology. So that was brought under unique conditions, the COVID-19 pandemic, when you guys launched that product, and that saved a lot of lives. And I think that's kind of a similar situation. This is ultimately what stood out for me about that case was the fact that one qubit considered like the whole gamut of factors, not just the problem itself, but also will they have internet connection when they're looking up these issues, right? That was one thing you guys focused on also. I think that humanitarian aspect, not just machine learning expertise, but also who's going to use that machine learning. That's what's unique about one qubit. And that's why I think this is in a very similar vein to that in terms of ethical implications.
Did you factor in the means to sell to hospitals across the country, and was selecting Canada sort of a limiting factor, or are you looking at other markets as well?
Yeah, so we definitely want to focus on Canada, British Columbia specifically. So the the reason why I wouldn't focus on British Columbia is because they have a very big issue in terms of backlog right now, and I just would want to make an immediate impact here. Oh,
So as Patrick mentioned, we definitely want to focus on British Columbia. And on the next slide, you could see that we actually built out a 5-year plan. So we do the pilot, we do the rollout, and then we expand beyond British Columbia. So currently in BC, there is 66 CT scanners in 149 hospitals. And then when you expand to the entire Canada, like the entire region, then you will be facing at 549 CT scanners in 1,080 hospitals.
Did you factor in some sort of increase in the one qubit sales team to interact with health authorities and other folks as part of the rollout costs?
Yes. So would you be able to repeat that question again?
The cost of people to interact with all the health authorities in individual hospitals, be they in BC or in other markets, and the one qubit team to do that, is that part of the financial model as well?
Correct. Yes, that is also part of the financial model. We also added 7% increase to our subscriptions costs, so licensing fee costs, which is $3,000 now. And then, as you could see, we also increase the number of data that we will need, which increases obviously the cost as well. So going from $100,000 in initial cost for data, we're going up to 750,000 Canadian dollars.
Okay. So maybe in the last minute we have or so, I think you had the data. I just would be interested to see it. The licensing cost for the hospital, how does it compare to the cost of running the CT by itself? Like how much of an add-on cost is that?
Yes, I'm happy to ask that. One up. Yes. So we actually, what we did is compare the useful life of a machine. So the useful life of a CT scanner is 10 years. And once we factor in the cost, we want to make sure that the cost of the licensing fee will not exceed the cost of the machine. So right now, as you can see right here, it's 10 years, but the overall cost will be 12 years out there. So what that means is really that the life of a machine is 12 years. But if you would like to pay that cost, you will actually be you will be paying less for the machine for the licensing itself than the actual machine. So it is factored in, and we want to make sure that it's not overpriced for the hospitals.
And can you quickly speak about which are the competitors in that area? Like selling similar solutions?
What was that question again?
Competitor for a solution to provide to read a digital image for the scan.
Yes, the competitors. Yes. So, in terms of competitors, in the vein of this,
Unfortunately, that is the end of our Q&A
Ah.
period. Thank you to our competitors for their presentation and Q&A. We're done with Good afternoon, competitors, coaches, judges, and honored guests. Welcome to the CaseIT 2023 finals presentations. My name is Megan, and I'll be your timer today. As a reminder, the CaseIT organizing committee is filming these presentations, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you our judging panel. From right to left, we have Silvio Hinta, the Director of Technology for BranchUp and a Director of CIO Van. We also have Brendan McCabe, the Director of Enterprise Commercial Business for Western Canada of Microsoft. We have Clemens Adolphs, the Head of Applied Computing for 1Qubit. We also have Elizabetta Valiente, the Optimization Solutions Lead of 1Qubit, as well as Eric Drexler, a machine learning researcher for 1Qubit. It is also my pleasure to introduce to you our judging facilitator, Peter Tingling, the Associate Dean of the SFU BD School of Business. We are so excited for your presentation, but before we begin, we would like to remind the competitors of the presentation guidelines. You will have 20 minutes of unprotected time to present your solution, meaning that judges are permitted to ask questions at any time during the presentation. At the conclusion of your presentation, judges will have 5 minutes to ask questions. At the end of these periods, competitors and judges are not permitted to continue speaking, even if the time ends while they're mid-sentence. I'll be using my own device to time the presentations and the Q&A period. I will also provide warnings at the 5, 3, 1, and 30 seconds marks. Regardless, you are still responsible for keeping track of your own time. Please note that competitors are not permitted to reveal their university, country, or city of origin during or after the presentation. And just a gentle reminder for those in the audience, please remember to silence your phones. Thank you and all the best. Competitors, you may begin your presentations whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. It is an absolute pleasure to be here today to talk to you about 1Qubit and their diffusion models. We are GMRZ Consulting. I am Georgie. This is Melanie, Rio, and Jabir. Power. Machine learning gives power to people, processes, and the planet. It is a technology that is revolutionizing all aspects of life and work. And if we are able to harness this power, we will be able to overcome a vast number of problems and really kind of modernize the world. So why are we here today? Well, we are here today to present to you some ideas and options for 1Qubit to pursue with diffusion models. We will present to you a number of different applications for these diffusion models and then present a business case for one of these diffusion models that we think best fits the company's strategy over the next 3 years. So first off, let's look at 1Qubit. 1Qubit are a Canadian company based here in Vancouver that build solutions and applications for machine learning and quantum computing. They have applications in a range of different industries, including finance, medical, and advanced materials. And they have also completed their Series B round of VC funding, raising over $46.5 million so far. So some of the strengths and weaknesses of 1Qubit and the market that they operate in, their opportunities and threats within that market. So one of their main strengths is the fact that they are a global leader and they are recognized as a technology pioneer. One of their weaknesses is they operate in a very new market, so therefore a lot of money is needed for R&D research. Looking at the market, there is a lot of opportunities occurring with machine learning capabilities and now quantum computing as well. But with that comes some ethical concerns and weaknesses in the market. So ethical concerns, including the biases of data, the issues around the transparency of how the machine learning models work, and also social considerations that we need to keep in mind as we talk about the development. I will now hand you over to Rio, who will talk to you about our use cases.
Thank you, Georgie. So the last time we spoke in our last meeting, it was clear to us that there really is endless amounts of possibilities that we can implement diffusion modeling. We talked a lot about the creative space and how interesting some of those use cases can be. But after deeper analysis into your business, we realized that 1Qubit really wants to solve industry-relevant problems, a solution that would impact a wider majority of lives. We therefore drew out our selection criteria. We wanted to make sure that our solution was unique, that the diffusion model really was needed to solve this problem. We then looked at the problem and demand. Is there a problem for this? Where is the demand? Will there be paying customers? We wanted to ensure there was high quality output of our solution and that it was important in the industry where we deploy it. We want to look at the current landscape you already have. So can we use your existing partners or maybe create new ones? And we also wanted to make sure the data quality behind our solution was good, i.e. meaning was there noise or variation in data, but also make sure there was large amounts of data available to us. And finally, we looked at feasibility and relevance. What is the landscape in the next 3 years? Is it feasible? Will it be relevant in 3 years' time? So up on the next slide, you'll be able to see our decision matrix. So on the right far side over there, you can see our, I think it's 11 criteria, and they're all weighted from 1 to 3, and those weightings impact the values in each of our solutions. This one is the first 7 ideas we had. If we move to the next slide, we can see the next 7. That's a whopping 14 ideas that we had to cut down to 3, and then again cut down to 1 to implement into your business. So the 3 top solutions are preventing cyber intrusions and threats in a network. Cybersecurity is one of the biggest threats in the industry. You face loss of data, loss of finances, and company reputation. But limitations in the current machine learning models just simply aren't good enough at the moment. We then looked at maybe identifying anomalies in an MRI scan. We know the medical industry is important, and we found there was a 10-fold increase in demand for radiology between 1999 and 2010. And finally, we looked at adjusting production and deployment of energy in order to ensure demands during energy shortages. Energy shortages really have a detrimental effect on a lot of lives. So yeah, we decided to go with cybersecurity, as you can see on the toes here, because it aligned with a lot of your strengths and weaknesses, opportunities, and your threats. But the ultimate driving factor of why I went for cybersecurity was because of your values, the audacity. We wanted to create a solution that rocked the boat, that drove innovation. And having said that, I'll now hand you over to Gilbert to walk you through our business case.
Thank you, Rio. As you can see on the slide, we can see why there is demand in the cybersecurity market. 80% of the companies globally have experienced at least one successful cybersecurity attack over the last year. 85% of the companies wanted security products to have either artificial intelligence or machine learning. Furthermore, cybercrime costs $1 trillion per year for the global economy. Finally, the cybersecurity market is expected to grow by 12% year on year. So where does diffusion modeling come in? What problems does it solve? The current cybersecurity solutions, we have identified 3 main problems of the current cybersecurity solutions: lacking the proactive cyber defense, failure to detect hostile malware, and also effectiveness against variation of attacks. So what are our solution? It can predict cyber attacks, it provides higher accuracy, and it also widens anomalies in data variation. This is going to be covered in more detail by Melanie on the next slides, but for now, let's just focus on our customers. We have identified 3 main industries that would most benefit from our solution. They are finance, government, and healthcare. The main reasoning behind this is the recent investments in cybersecurity market. Also, as an indicator, we use the global valuation and also the average money loss per one successful cybersecurity attack. Based on these 3 industries, we tried to narrow down our customer base for the next 3 years. As a total addressable market, we started at 150,000 companies, including SMEs and larger corporations. We narrowed this down to 500 as a serviceable addressable market, and we got to 7 as serviceable available market. Number 7 seems low, as we started with a big number. This is because we're starting with 2 main partners of 1 qubit, and we'll be trying to get more partners over the next 3 years. Now I'm going to hand you back to Rio, who is going to cover of how the solution is going to work.
Thank you, Gilbert. So now that you know what our solution is, what problems it solves, and also we told you who your customer base is, I want to talk to you a little bit more about how exactly this is going to work. Now, as you mentioned in our business analysis, Qubit values partnerships. You've built the foundations of your company on these partnerships. 2 of these partners are Amazon Web Services and the Royal Bank of Scotland. Now, the reason these 2 partners are so good for this project is because they have a huge amount of users. These users create a huge amount of data which you can use to train our diffusion model. This data will be network traffic data, user behavior data, system log data, and threat intelligence data. We really believe that 1QBit is in the right strategic position to service these companies and more. But now, let me hand you over to the brains behind our technology. Melanie, can you walk us through the technicalities, please?
Thank you so much. As you can see, there is four inputs of the training data set. So first of all is traffic data. So in order to get that, we're going to implement a network sniffer in which it intercepts between the client and the server, obtaining traffic data. Additionally, we have consumer behavior data. We also have user log data, and also we have cyber threat intelligence data, which is internal and external. These three at the bottom are provided by our partners, being RBS and AWS. Now we understand the training inputs. Now let's understand how this contributes to a diffusion model and how it can prevent cyber crime. So as you can see, this is a complex model. From left to right, it shows the denoising and noising process. During this process, it detects outliers, anonymous data, and in turn, noise, and that can identify potential cyber threats. And from this creates a knowledge base, a classifier, if you wish. It creates possibilities and what if scenarios. And from this model, now you can prompt it and ask items like, how is this going to impact my business? And would this impact me within the next 3 years? Now for the solution implementation, Georgie.
Thank you, Melanie. So this solution is going to be implemented over the next 3 years using an ML ops approach to development. Now, a big issue with machine learning development is the uncertainty surrounding it versus the development of normal software. So in order to kind of mitigate this risk, we are spending a lot of time really looking into defining that problem space and our requirements for the machine learning model. Then in the second year, we will go into developing the machine learning model. A large portion of this will be taken up by the data gathering and data pre-processing periods, followed by the training, testing, and validation of the model. While we are doing this, we will also be making sure the model adheres to any governance and compliance regulations, while also monitoring it for any bias or unrealistic results. We will then, in the third year, implement this model with our partners as a proof of concept, use it alongside the technology they are already using so we can test its accuracy. And we will also be getting feedback from them and going through an iterative process and improving the model as we go. In the fourth year, as we head into the fourth year, we aim to have a commercializable product. And I will hand you back over to Melanie to talk to you about the cost and the pricing strategy.
So due to the technology that OneQubit already has with the diffusion models, so we were told that you already have the technology in place, which we've then verified. We know that it is like a really good advantage against other companies such as IBM who don't yet use diffusion modeling specifically for cybersecurity threats in order to predict the threats, where they'll come from. So when Melanie was explaining how it exactly works, it creates the what if scenarios and what if solutions, and then it widens the scope of what it can catch and what might possibly be coming its way.
Okay, that's fair. My question wasn't really how. My question was, how do you compete in a market with massively funded, massive companies already there?
So I think maybe the edge could be the partnerships with Amazon Web Services and the Royal.
That works for Microsoft, but that's okay. I like it anyway. It hurts a little bit, but that's fine.
So yeah, the partnerships, because they already are partners with them, so therefore it's not like we're trying to implement a new thing, but also, like I said earlier, the technology you already have is a bit more advanced from our understanding from the competitors in the market.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. The cost. As you can see in this cost pie chart, we can see that actually building the diffusion model and also inserting the listener as the majority of the costs. You can request the costs in the appendix, which is towards the end, but as you can see, this is going to project it to 14 million in cost. And How can we actually generate profit from this product? As you can see, the fixed price to access the platform is 1,000 Canadian dollars per month per client. The additional price, which uses a cost plus pricing strategy, is 500 Canadian dollars. And this is in order to use the diffusion model itself for a 1 terabyte of data. And additionally, maintenance and support, of course, is included in the fixed price. Before we jump into the return on investment, we need to understand that we'll be developing this alongside our partners. We also receive funding through the strategic partnerships, and these partners will pay as customers, so the fixed price and additional price before receiving the actual product at the end of the 3 years. Now, next shows the return on investment. And as you can see, it is constantly positive returns. And the reason being that we are partner funded from years 1 to 3. So this is why it remains positive. Additionally, from years 3 to 4, it only will be exponential, this return on investment, which shows this is a worthwhile project in the long term. Now I will pass it to Jiju.
Regarding the partnership, do you have to sell this idea to the partners as well?
Could you repeat the question, sorry?
Do you have to sell the idea to the partners? Are they on board already?
So specifically, they aren't currently on board on this specific project. As we identified in your past meeting that you have partnered with these clients in the past for previous projects, but we want to make sure they're on board with this current project and that our values align with one another.
Thank you, Melanie. As you can see from the slide here, we have identified numerous risks and challenges with our solution. Most of these focus on the current challenges with the machine learning. Let's focus on the inaccurate machine learning model results and also lack of comprehensive, unbiased, and clean data. How are we going to mitigate this risk? As Georgia previously mentioned, we will aim to have ethical framework identified during our discovery part of the process. Furthermore, we will aim to have continuous monitoring and evaluation of our model. Also, we've included the competitive market, as you previously mentioned. Our mitigation plan, as Rio mentioned, is that we will try to have the edge on this with our first solution using diffusion modeling in cybersecurity. Now I'm going to hand you back over to Georgie, who is going to wrap us up.
So in the time that we've been speaking to you, 23 cyber attacks have taken place. This means and shows that there is a clear need in the market for firms to become more proactive and preventative when it comes to cyber attacks. An effort that they are already trying, but an effort that we believe we will be able to help them with diffusion modeling and with 1Qubit. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, team, for your presentation. The duration of the presentation was 16 minutes and 12 seconds. Judges, you have 5 minutes to ask questions. You may now begin.
You want to start? Sure.
Thank you for your presentation. Yeah, my first question was, how much time were you planning to use on the data acquisition and the data cleaning? Because just from experience, logs are just very hard to work with, and especially when they come from a financial institution.
Yeah, I think we know that during machine learning development, it's normally around 80% of the time is spent on that kind of data collection and data pre-processing period. So that's kind of encompassed in the fact that the data pre-processing is a slightly kind of bigger box within that box. In terms of getting the data from our partners, I think the good thing is that we already have kind of a good relationship with them. So hopefully that will help us.
Could you clarify for me again how the customer is exactly going to use the product we develop? Like, how is it actually really being used by the customer? Is it like...
Sure. Yeah, great. Great question. So how's it going to be used by the product? You're probably wondering, oh, they're already paying fixed cost of $1,000 from the start. And that by that, we're already establishing a really simple platform in which they can contact customer support, but it's not fully, you can't use it yet. So that's why we're developing alongside partners, especially between years 1 and 2, which you can see in the implementation timeline. So it can be customized and bespoke to their needs. So it can be attractive for them. And that's why they would want to invest, because really we're tailoring the diffusion model to their needs. I hope that answers your question, please. Yeah.
Just to add on to that, I think it's important to think of it as software as a service. So it could be an API, but as Melanie said, because it's customizable and we can change it, we can pivot, given on the feedback from the two partners that we're starting out with. So it's very much in the hands of them and the company to kind of decide on exactly what kind of platform it could look like.
Can you clarify again how do you use the diffusion model to find the attacks? So which data do you need in input and how do you do the training?
Perfect. So I think it's best to understand the second model because it's quite complex and I don't use certain terms because this is for more of a computer science background. So how does it actually do this? So I'm sure you might know, I'm sure you know about diffusion models, but I will explain it really lightly. For example, when you put unstructured trained data, it will destroy it based from the patterns and noise it recognizes. And this creates the destroyed data. And then it goes through the denoising process. So then you're trying to revert to the original unstructured data. And during this denoising and noising process, which you can see that comes before the destroyed data and the denoising, this then creates a classifier. So this classifier is almost a knowledge base, as you will. And as I said, it creates possibilities. It creates what ifs. It creates variations. It creates learned attacks from past data. Our traditional models like GAN does not do this because they cannot pick up noise and outliers in the same way. And regarding training data, as you said, this is really focused on the partners AWS and RBS providing user behavior, system logs, and threat intelligence data. And network traffic data is actually included in the cost because we implement a network sniffer and we also consider network engineers in order to implement this. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Sorry, just to add on that, the accuracy will also be proven with the real-time data that gets from a network sniffer and is part of the network traffic data. So along with the whole model creating its own data, there's also real-time data being fed into it of stuff that's happening at the moment.
What are your KPI? How you know if you are succeeding here?
I think our plan is to implement it alongside, our proof of concept, alongside some of the products that our partners already have to kind of see how our product does versus theirs at detecting and predicting different cyber attacks.
And that is the end of our Q&A session. Thank you so much to our competitors for your presentation. And thank you to our judges as well for your insights and expertise. We will now be going into an extended break with the next presentation starting at 4:50 p.m.
4:50. 20 minutes.